We're not making up stuff on people. When you're a writer, how do you get your work out?
I don't care what people think. I don't care what they say. They can say what they want to say about me. I don't care. I got the talent to write and I'm going to keep on writing.
We decided that we couldn't try this in the court of law. We're trying this in the court of public opinion.
Just pay me what you owe me. We putting this out here so you guys can see.
This has given us closure. I'm going to put it to bed after this. After seeing so many of Tyler Perry's plays,
first my plans was to make some screenplays. I have written 2 books, 25 screenplays.
I had copyrighted the book. It was published.
It wasn't published, but it was definitely copyrighted.
I decided to write Tyler Perry a letter. Got that book on his desk. He got that book in his back pocket.
One meeting I had was with Barbara Hunt that works for Oprah.
And they were like, send us another copy. And I was like, another copy? Okay. They were like, he won't let that one loose. I heard there was a fire at the studio.
He said, yes, they love it. So they was gonna give me a call.
Then I contacted him on Twitter. I got on Twitter, I was like, hey Tyler, you looking for me?
When I called, they postponed it.
They postponed what?
They postponed the movie.
And how I decided to take action was his failed responses.
All the parts he showed in the trailer was in my screenplay. Every part that he showed in that trailer.
In the Southern District of New York, I filed a case against the Tyler Perry Company in Lionsgate.
Right.
So my case was dismissed as well. And I tried to do a motion for reconsideration to reopen under fraud, and I was denied because I really didn't understand motion practice as a pro se. The next course of action on this whole situation was when I was in Kansas and I had come from Korea, I filed a motion to reopen. It was denied. So I said, wait a minute, maybe it's because Tyler Perry Studios is in the state of Georgia. Because I didn't understand law. I just thinking that it's in the wrong place. If they transferred it from Pennsylvania to New York because they said Lionsgate was there, maybe they really need me to file the case in Georgia because Tyler Perry Studios and Tyler Perry is in Georgia. You know what I mean?
Right.
I went in and I filed a case, the same kind of case that was filed in the Southern District of New York, in the Northern District of Georgia at the district court. And it was based on the same issues. It was copyright infringement. It was Lionsgate and Tyler Perry. Only thing I think I added Tyler Perry Studios into that one. And basically kind of mirror imaged my first lawsuit, but kind of explained that my lawyer never got an opportunity to argue the case or to present the evidence in the case. And I didn't understand what I was doing. And one of the things that Tyler Perry's lawyer, Tom Ferber, who served on the case we had together, was at Prior Cashman LLP, he stated it was collateral estoppel and res judicata. So we know what that means, right? Collateral estoppel is like double jeopardy. If you was to commit a crime and say a person was to be tried by court of one crime, they can't be charged twice.
Right.
So on the civil side, collateral estoppel stops you from being charged of the same crime or the same civil complaint twice. So I didn't understand how to plead properly, failed opportunity to fully and fairly present my case in the first one. And when I got better versed on it and I learned more information about it, it was kind of too late. I was already in the appeal process. And it was when I discovered that law that you have to have a full and fair opportunity in the other case for that to be considered a full and fair opportunity in a court of law. And I didn't know that.
Like basically you had to have a trial.
Right. Basically, or a trial that allows you to present all your evidence, even if it's by a single judge. But I didn't have any of that. And so the 11th Circuit in Georgia, which was the appeals court, told me that I failed to prosecute by bringing the charges or the argument in the district court before bringing it to the appeals court to give them a chance to answer the charge.
Right. Right.
So when in 2017, I was denied my, I did a re-en-banc, requesting to be reheard on the issue after they dismissed it at the appeal level, and they denied that as well. And you know what I did? I emailed it to you, William. I emailed it to you in January of 2017 because I was looking for other people who were like me, that were writers that felt they were wronged by Tyler Perry. And I went online and I found out that you, Donna West, and all these other people were saying that they were writers that were wrong.
Right, because I know I did the same thing.
You was trying to find people?
I was trying to find people who been suing Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey. I was like, wow, I had discovered Tyler Perry was in so many lawsuits. I didn't know what to think at that point.
So we knew we weren't going to get justice immediately now. We was like, it's a wrap. The same thing I felt when I saw it. I was like, okay, so now I see this is the way it is.
Right. Now, you know what?
What?
What inspired me the most is when I did get that email. Because when I got that email, I said, I'm back in the game. I'm back in the game.
February 2017, right?
So I actually, what I did was I prayed before I called you, you know? And I knew God wasn't going to let me down like that. So I called, and me and you talked on the phone for a while. We compared our case to one another, and we just took it from there, you know?
So, in 2017, in February, you reached out to me on an email. No, you reached out to me on a phone call.
Yep.
And I almost fell out of my chair. I was like, it's the guy from Illinois, from the case that was filed in Indiana. The other writer, William James. I was so excited. I was so excited to reach you.
I was excited as well.
And then we started talking about a class action lawsuit.
Right.
And that was our intention, right?
Right, because we knew we couldn't bring copyright infringement back. We knew that. Because see, after my case was over, that's when I really started looking up the law. What can I do, trying to find a way back in? Even though that I wasn't an attorney, and I didn't really know too much about the law, I still was trying to do my homework to find out what can I do. Instead of just trying to find an attorney, I just started looking up the law. You know, what did you do?
Well, me personally, I kept looking up the laws. I kept looking up to see, especially when I learned about collateral estoppel and res judicata. That is, you know what that's called? That's a Rule 8B defense to a lawsuit. And I had no law whatsoever underneath my belt. Now, today, I can say that with confidence, but I had no idea that when they answered the complaint and they did the 8B response, of the res judicata and the collateral estoppel, they provided their reason why it was collateral estoppel, because they said another judge had made a ruling on it of a competent jurisdiction. But I argue it wasn't a full and fair opportunity to litigate. So now when I came to you and I'm talking to you in February, I'm like, we can't do copyright infringement.
Right.
Because I was just collaterally estopped, and I started sharing my documents with you. You remember that?
I remember. Yep, I remember. And I say, hold on, wait a minute. I'm coming to Atlanta. I'm coming to Atlanta. I gotta come down there. You know, this was a couple months later, actually. But you know, we remember we was talking on the phone, and I contacted Melvin Childs. Remember?
Yes.
We were talking on the phone, and we was trying to contact Diary of a Mad Black Woman, Donna West.
Right.
Donna West. And we contacted the lady with the Matrix.
Oh, Sophia Stewart. She was in Vegas. Mm-hmm.
And we talked to all three of them together.
We did. And we were trying to find other witnesses and people who were like us, that had gone through the things that we had gone through as far as having our works copyright infringed on, and trying to find other courses of action. So I had a copyright infringement case in the Southern District of New York and the Northern District of New York, and you had a copyright infringement case in the, what was it, the Eastern District of?
Northern District of Indiana.
Oh, the Northern District of Indiana.
Yeah.
So here we are in 2017 in the Northern District of Georgia.
Right.
And you came, we talked about it on the phone.
Right.
We were trying to find the merits of the case for what was it?
We could file a complaint. We was trying to find what can we bring to the courts to file a complaint.
Right, for our class action suit.
Right.
So we started looking at Donna West's work. We started looking at our works collectively, like the three works put together. Donna West, she wrote Fantasy of a Mad Black Woman, which she believes became Diary of a Mad Black Woman.
Well, it was fantasy. I think it was Fantasy of a Black Woman.
Fantasy of a Mad Black Woman?
No, Fantasy of a Black Woman.
Oh, just Fantasy of a Black Woman.
Yes.
So Donna West had Fantasy of a Black Woman. She believed that was Tyler Perry's
Diary of a Mad Black Woman. Exactly.
And in 2007, she went to court and went to trial.
Right.
Which was very different from both of us. We never got an opportunity to go to trial.
See, that was when you first started. See, you got to get it. Because that was when you first started. That was back in 2005, I believe.
5 or 7? Yeah, ended in 7, I think.
Yeah. So he wasn't really with Oprah Winfrey at that time. He wasn't familiar how to do court cases, you know, until over a period of time. Because anytime you get sued time after time after time after time again, you learn how to fight these cases in court. They're like, it become a historical thing for you, you know?
Right. You know what I also realized, William?
What was that?
Something we discussed over and over again, because we spend hours, weeks, days, months, years discussing this stuff, right?
Over the phone.
And one of the things you and I talked about was, isn't this ironic that in 2008, I gave my work to Tyler Perry, right? At the Tyler Perry Studios. And then I believe the same year or either 2009, I sent my book to Oprah Winfrey's book club.
Right.
And then you noticed that in 2011, you gave your work to Oprah Winfrey's accountant at Harpo Studios in Illinois, right in Chicago. And then in 2012, my book was adapted to, or at least allegedly believe my book was adapted to Good Deeds, the movie, and released February 2012. And October 2nd of 2012, Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry signed an exclusive deal to work with one another.
Right.
Then
it dawned on you, didn't it?
April 2012, your movie comes out.
Right. But it dawned.
Lovers Kill, which you believe allegedly is Tyler Perry's Temptations Confessions of a Marriage Counselor.
Right. But it dawned on you, didn't it? Because they was actually working together at the time. They just didn't have no exclusive deal. See, when you gave Oprah your book, and you gave your book to Oprah Winfrey and Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
See, but I just gave mine to Oprah. But we knew that they was actually dealing with each other at the time, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was on a show.
Because it wasn't Harpo Studios that produced the movie.
Right, it was Tyler
Perry, so they had to be working together. How did it get from Indiana or Illinois, Chicago, away to Georgia?
Right, they was working together, they just didn't have no exclusive deal.
Right.
Allegedly. Allegedly they was working together, but they didn't have an exclusive deal. Until they made that exclusive deal at the end of 2012, then that's when it all came to me. How Tyler Perry got it, and how everything went about. And then when I spoke with you, and you told me that you was in Oprah Winfrey Book Club, that's how they got you.
Submit to it. I didn't get into it.
Right. Well, you filled out an application to get into our book club.
Mm-hmm. I went online to her website and I applied and I submitted an electronic copy of my book.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But believe me, they got it.
Right. And I mailed a copy, I believe, to Harpo Studios with a letter.
Right.
Joined the book club online, did the website, and then I submitted the book by mail. I believe that's how that worked.
Right. So with that being said, right,
mm-hmm.
when at the end of 2012, when they signed that exclusive deal, I was like, wait a minute. So that's how Tyler Perry got my screenplay, because him and Oprah Winfrey had became very tight at that point. You know, they became very tight, and I was like, well, but at that time, anyway, we had getting ready to file a lawsuit in the court of law, and even then, you know, they was denying the allegation. You know, even TMZ denied the allegation. One time the period told me I was blackballed before I even got started.
And I had media coverage as well, Bill. Griot, they did an interview with me. The Hollywood Reporter talked about Tom Ferber disrespected me in every which way he could have.
Yes, he did.
You know, did you? And remember, he talked about both of us at the same time, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did.
In the media.
Yep.
And remember what TMZ said that you did to your career?
Yeah.
What did TMZ say?
TMZ told me that I ended my career before I even got it started. And I blackballed myself already. That's what TMZ said. You know, I ended my career before I got it started. And they talked a lot of smack about me. But Tyler Perry also got on the internet too, on the page in the story, and said that just because he wrote a movie just like mine, that don't mean it's mine. Now.
Wow, what did he say that on? Do you remember?
I don't remember what show he said it on, but I heard it. And I know it's on the internet. He said just because he wrote a screenplay like mine, that don't mean it's mine. But if you listen to that statement, that statement contradicts itself. You know. So how you gonna write something like mine?
Mm.
You know. he could have worded that a different way. He could have said, just because we had the same idea to write a screenplay like that, that doesn't mean mine is like his. You know, I mean, he said a whole lot of different ways. But in any event, Tyler Perry, he was my inspiration, actually, to be honest with you. I looked up to Tyler Perry.
I did too. Bill, I did. William James, I really did. I was in love with all of his work.
Yep, I was too. I thought he was the greatest man on this earth. Actually, he was a black man. You know, he's bright and he's making his money. I said, I'm pretty sure if he see another talented brother, he'll probably extend his hand out to help him get started in his own career. You know, that's all I was looking for. To be honest, keep it 100 with you, I would have gave him that. You know, you can have that. Just breathe some more of myself and let me get my foot in the door.
Right.
Work, you know. So he could have kept that one for himself, and then just read what I got. Maybe you extend your hand out and help me where I can get started. You know, like that.
Right, like say, you could take this first work and you can keep this first work.
Right.
When, it's time for me to do a second work, maybe we could work out a deal.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, my attorney tried to say, first he said, that I could possibly get a deal, a book deal and a movie deal if I let it go. Then he said, oh no, there'll be other opportunities out there for you. So he kind of switched it up on me. But I knew what he was relating to. And I really thought that if I couldn't get a financial deal out of it, I really believed that Tyler Perry was going to give me an opportunity to be a writer for him, to say, okay, well, maybe, I'm not going to pay you for this work.
Right.
But would you be willing to write some more stuff for me and I pay you for it? I thought that was what was going to happen.
Well, I kind of thought the same thing too. I kind of thought the same thing, and I thought he was really interested in what I had, because again, like I said, we're both black, and we both know what it is to struggle, because I struggled when I was a young kid, just like he struggled when he was a young kid. He slept in his car, I slept in my car, I did a lot of things before I went downstate to school, But like I said, I thought he was an honorable man, and Oprah Winfrey as well. I looked up to Oprah too, because she was black and she was one of the biggest stars on TV, had her own talk show. She was doing a lot of things, for Chicago. So I didn't think the two top black people, for me, will treat me like that.
Well, I thought because of my life and how hard it was for me, that they would understand, because they had their own trials and they discussed abuse and they discussed life being hard for them as kids. I thought after reading my book and knowing that some of the stuff in the book also was my true life, these black women and men out here that are struggling like myself would relate to them, and then they would find empathy to give us our shot because we have talent.
Right.
Like, hey, I want to give these talented. I really looked up to them as well. I really thought that they were above board and that everything that they did was like golden.
Right. Exactly. I thought so too. And then when I found out that I didn't get paid for my work and stuff like that, I was heartbroken. I ain't gonna even lie.
I was too, Bill.
I was heartbroken.
William James, I was heartbroken as well.
Yep, and I felt like I was betrayed, by my own people.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yep.
I cried many nights and I was so embarrassed in front of my family because I was telling them I was about to do this and that, and I was like, yeah, I'm getting out the Army and I'm gonna be making movies now and I'll be able to help you with this and that, because I'm going to be making big things happen in the film industry. I've done it in the music industry. Here I come.
I felt the same way.
And it just kept going and going and going.
And then when that attorney did what he did, I was like, Lord have mercy. I say, this is not for me. I started bagging up then,
I didn't understand, Bill.
That took a lot out of me. I ain't gonna even lie. That whole process took a lot out of me. It made me not trust people anymore.
Yes.
I didn't want to give my work to anybody anymore. My cousin and my sister was telling me to just keep moving forward, trying to get people to view your work. And I was like, nah, because they be stealing. And, this is what I thought in my heart, that the industry steals work. I had thought to myself that people in the industry, they don't work hard. They get work from other people, They come right down here in our neighborhood, take our work, take it up there like it's dead. That's what I was thinking.
I agree.
They know the talent is in the ghetto. All the talent is in the ghetto when it comes to creating, when it comes to rapping, when it comes to singing. The talent is in the ghetto. And writing songs and writing movies and things like that. If you ask any one of them rappers or a lot of those guys that do movies today, they came from the ghetto, all of them. That's where the talent comes from, Yeah, come from the Bronx, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles,
And you want to know something? One of the most ironic things about taking from people in the ghetto, and we saw this when we were doing our research and we were trying to find other people like us that were wronged by them. We saw the saddest thing in the world.
Yes, we did. There were so many people that had their work stolen and took it from them. Oh man, it was just unbelievable. Remember when me and you did our own work and we was doing a lot of investigation?
Yes.
And we found out that all these people had been through all this stuff, and we thinking maybe we might just be a few of them out there. Come to find out, there's thousands of people out there that had their work stolen.
We thought it was just you, me, and Donna West.
Right, and a few other people.
Yeah, and a couple of other people, and we found 37 different types of cases against Tyler Perry and 94 cases against Oprah Winfrey at the time.
Yes, we did.
And a lot of them were copyright infringement. They were doing Bill of Rights, because you can still claim your Bill of Rights were violated. And just different stuff in that same nature. And it was so sad because it really made you think that your favorite people in the world were now very mean people without a heart.
No, right, I get you. I understand. I ain't trying to cut you off, but I get you. I understand because now you're thinking to yourself, now who am I going to contact? Who am I going to try to call and get this work out now?
Right. And you know what the worst part about taking from poor people? They can't afford attorneys.
Right.
The attorneys, you and I, in this case, when you and I put in our own pro se as co-plaintiffs, we filed April 3rd, 2017 in the Northern District of Georgia. When we filed that, we spent days prior to that trying to have all of the proper argument for civil RICO.
Right.
We wanted to make sure this wouldn't be brought as a copyright infringement case based on all of the information that we found on them and the things that they have done to so many other people.
Right.
And we realized there was a pattern. This was the usual way of doing business. This was something they were doing on an ongoing basis. Emmanuel Tucker put us on to civil RICO because we were going to file a class action lawsuit.
Right.
And we realized that class action lawsuit was going to be collaterally estopped in res judicata because they'll just say, it's the same claim, but with different people and parties.
Exactly.
So we got turned on to Civil RICO, and we got to speak to different people, like a woman in California, no, not in California, but she was in Florida. Her name was Rhonda, and her dad used to own the Apollo in New York. And we were introduced to her, and she was telling us a little bit about her father that had been charged with RICO, right?
Right, she was.
And so we figured RICO would be the best thing because we saw this as they were enterprise organizations and corporations. They were individual people, and they use individual people to scout out our work, such as their staff at their employment. And so it wouldn't be like we put it in their hands per se. You see what I'm saying? They had their in-between guy, such as what RICO, Civil RICO requires. And then under 18 U.S.C. 1962, the predicate acts for the racketeering charges, we charged them with a host of different things, such as threatening disqualified attorneys. We said that they blacklisted us, and that, just the statement that TMZ made on you shows that you were blacklisted, because once our names are mentioned in the media and our works and going to court with Tyler Perry and Oprah Winfrey, other studios would not want to work with us based on the fact that they think we're going to bring a lawsuit against them if they review our work.
And not only that, what we discovered was our cases was did the same way. They changed judges and stuff like that. It was just off the chain. Right.
They changed judges. They would have the judge transfer to another person.
It was in default.
They default. Yep.
Started out in default. Then they get the judge they want in there, and then the judge they want in there pull them out of default.
Right.
That's how that went.
And then the case gets dismissed.
It's dismissed.
Without ever going to trial.
That's right.
Without a full and fair opportunity to litigate the case. So when you came to my house and we spent like 4 days, it was like 4 days or 5 days, something like that?
Yeah, 4 days.
4 days. We started early in the morning and got done late at night each day, working on the complaint to file for April 3rd on 2017.
We got it done. Yeah, we did a lot of research. Those days, we came up with the laws. We came up with how we said that it was not copyright infringement, but criminal copyright infringement. And we didn't say infringement. We said that they was plagiarizing our works,
and counterfeiting our work.
Counterfeiting.
Yes.
We came up with so much stuff that day. Well, we didn't have no paper to put all that stuff on.
Right.
Yeah.
So so now we have a list of questions for our case, William. And in the Northern District Court of Georgia, this was a huge case. We started April 2017, and it roughly ended, what was it, in 2019, that summer sometime, or
Actually, it ended when the pandemic came.
Right.
It was like maybe in the winter, I think.
Yeah, it ended that winter. Summer, I think, of 2019.
Right. We had discussed it to come back after the pandemic, to go back at it, but we changed our minds since it cost us so much money. That was an expensive case for me.
Yes.
It costed us a lot of money.
Yeah, I blew my life savings. I blew everything that I could ever get my hands on,
yep,
including some royalties from the music industry that I I messed over trying to fight this case.
Yeah. So we did a lot.
Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe.
During the case, since you were pro se litigants, did you, Terry Lowe, and William James feel threatened during the case?
Nobody's safe.
Of course, I felt threatened.
Nobody's safe.
Because to keep it 100 with you, I started having blowouts on the expressway every other day. I think I had about 20 blowouts in 1 month.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Do you remember on April 3rd, after you left, and we had the sheriff's department, we paid the sheriff's department, right?
Right.
The next day when you got back to Chicago, because you drove home, so it took you a while to get home. I think you stayed that night, or did you? No, you got on the road that same day.
Yeah.
Afternoon. It was like 2 in the afternoon or something like that. And when you left and got home, what happened when you got home that night? The next day?
That you talking about with the somebody shooting through my window?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody was shooting through the window. And when I looked outside, I didn't see nobody. Like maybe it was a drive-out or something, because I remember my last case, when I was fighting Oprah Winfrey and Tyler, I had police stop bothering me. I can pull off and get 10 feet from my house, they pull me over. And this actually had never happened. And diagonally sitting across the street was a police just sitting there watching. They'd come and take my plates off the car and write me about 15 tickets. It was off the chain.
Wow.
Man, I'm telling you. And this happened, the same thing when me and you started fighting this case. The same thing was happening when I was fighting Tyler Perry over before. So
it was a pattern.
It was a
pattern of different. And the thing is, has it been happening since, our case in 2019 ended up until now, 2023? Has it been happening?
No.
Not at all, right?
Not at all.
What happened when we started talking again about doing this documentary?
I woke up in the morning with a flat. I'm like, and then that was on one side. And the other side, I think that was coincidence, though.
No, it can't be, because I had a fake True Green person coming to my house from True Green Corporation, and he said he was from True Green and was putting together a repackage for a new plan for me. And when True Green called me, they said they have no record of anyone being in my house. They have no record of anyone coming and putting any package together.
You know what, Terry? Look, I don't know, this might be a coincidence.
Okay.
Keep it 100. I don't even know if I told you this, because it just dawned on me.
Okay, let's talk about it.
You remember when we was fighting Tyler Perry the first time?
Mm-hmm.
Part of my car had broke, and I had lost control of the car.
Yes, I remember that. While you was on the highway, right?
Right. This same thing happened again. No, I wasn't on the highway. I wasn't on the highway.
No, you said if you were on the highway, you would have really been in trouble.
Right, I'd have been in trouble because I couldn't guide the car. And the same thing happened again in my car. The same piece, the same part. I don't know. But it's kind of hard to get to that part. If I'm not, I don't know.
You know something? I mean, it didn't happen since we, okay, so 19 is how many years? So we got 20, 21, 22.
It's really 3
This is
years.
23.
3 years.
And it happened somewhere between 17 and 19 the first time. And now, since we've been starting again, all of a sudden it's happening again. And it happened again like that. Like, I can't strike that as a coincidence. We can't say who did it, when they did it, or why they did it, but we feel like it is connected somehow.
Well, I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's connected, but
I mean, the time frame.
It is a coincidence.
The same people. Whoever's doing it is the same people.
So I don't know.
If they cut that same part, and that part is hard to cut.
No, they didn't cut the part. It's just somehow, because when I looked up under it, it don't seem like it was cut, but it looked like it was, I don't know, tampered with or something, or because you could destroy it by messing with their wheel as well too. No, I don't know, but anyway, I really don't know what happened. But
so for me, I felt threatened when I left the courthouse after going to get a new summons. Remember, we had to keep redoing the summonses?
Yeah.
And when I went to go, I think I had you on the phone one time, and I did a recording, like a video of me recording myself going around in circles. My GPS on my phone, because I didn't know downtown Atlanta very well from Douglasville. And I'm a new transplant because I came from Kansas in 2016 and in Korea before that for 8 years. So I was really having a hard time getting home. Do you know, from the district court, which is in a whole different direction from Douglasville, Georgia, the district court kept routing me, not the district court, I'm sorry. My GPS kept routing me from the district court to the Tyler Perry Studios, the new one down in Atlanta. That's at the Army base.
Right.
It kept taking me to the front gate of Tyler Perry Studios.
I remember that.
How can someone do that to your phone? And then what happened was we realized someone, we don't know who, we can't say who, but we have an idea. We have a big idea, People with a lot of money, whoever it is, you got to have a lot of money to do the kind of stuff that they were doing on our phones.
Right.
They kept hacking into our phones.
And computers.
And the computers. Remember, we had that where it said remoted in William James and then William James. Your name would show under my phone twice.
Right.
Once as the call I was on, and then it would be remoted in.
Right.
Someone remoted into my phone. And if you remote into my phone, that means you can change my GPS.
Right. Now tell us about the time that when you went down there to the district court and they took you in the basement.
Okay, so this is after. Now we can roll into document 85 just a little bit, because after document 76, we amended our complaint on document 85 on July 5th, 2017, and we added Judge Thomas W. Thrash Jr. as a defendant. We labeled him as a co-conspirator under civil RICO because we felt like he was aiding and abetting Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry by letting them out of default, by not making them do excusable neglect under their default, by writing motions on the record while they were in default. Would you say, William?
Trying to dismiss the case.
Trying to dismiss the case. Not making them answer our summary judgment. So there were so many reasons why, and then we discovered something that we're going to talk about a little bit later, and we're going to talk about what we discovered and what we added into document 85. But I'll go back to what happened. So while we had him as a defendant and he had to answer the complaint himself, the amended complaint, I went down to go and file papers at the district court for a motion or something that we had to file. And I go through every single time. You either leave your phone in the car or you check your phone in to the U.S. Marshals. And it's just like an airport or airplane or going into a federal building. You must take off your shoes. You must put all of your documents and your papers in a bin and put it through. And so I went there with Emmanuel Tucker, my ex-husband, and we were standing there together. And as we put all of our things on the bin and walked out, they said, you know what? They picked the bin up instead of running our papers through like everyone else's. And they told us to take off our shoes and walk through. And they said, you have to file with us downstairs. And we were like, what? Why would we have to file? I mean, we're filing it. And said, no, we need to take you through security downstairs. And we were like, downstairs? What's that got to do? What's wrong with this security? Like, this is security. I mean, they frisk you if they have to. They run a wand over your body. They have everything. They have a huge, huge machine that scans all your things. So like an airport. I mean, it literally, when you walk into the federal building, feels like an airport. And so we're like, okay. So we go with this U.S. Marshal. And the U.S. Marshal takes us to these special elevators that we never used before, because you need a key card badge to badge yourself in and out of that elevator. So when you walk in, you have to hit your badge to call the elevator. Then when you get inside, you have to hit your badge to hit the floor. And he took us to the basement. So we get out of the basement and we turn in several corridors, and I'm scared. My heart is pumping Kool-Aid, because I'm like, these guys are real big. You know, U.S. Marshals, they don't choose the littlest people. They really like 6'4" kind of guys, real lean and looking like agents and stuff with guns on their hip and everything. And so he took us to another hallway where there was a door that he had to badge into that had a guard sitting in another area that could see us through a glass. So we go through this corridor, and then you can't get out. Like, say, if you go into this corridor, you're trapped in if you don't have a key card to go left or right. You're almost like a prisoner of that little hallway, because you have to badge yourself in and badge yourself out of the hallway. So we came out of the hallway. He badged us to the next side. So we're walking through this, which looked like a truck stop. You know, like when you're loading. Loading dock. You got it right. And there's a gate there that's shut down, a metal gate. And in front of us were these large, like, you know, mail bins or laundry bins you would see at a hotel, where it can hold 2, 3, 4 bodies. I mean,
right,
it was scary.
Like in the police department, they always take you to the back.
Yeah, one of those things. And so we walk down through the loading dock, and then he uses his key card and badges us into another section. So we get inside there, and there's a guy sitting in there with a machine just like the one upstairs. But the whole experience being badged into the elevator, through the hallway, down the hall, into that other room that we were standing in was very, how would I say?
Scary.
It was very threatening. It was threatening and scary, and it was ominous, and it was threatening. It was scary. It was ominous. It made me fear for my life, because that wasn't a normal way to file paperwork with a district court.
Right.
So we get into this room, and they say, okay, put your stuff through this thing. They run it through, hand it back to us, and then badge us back through all of the other gates, but ask us a bunch of little questions. We knew at that time it was because I had added the judge as a defendant.
Right.
A couple of days later, William, do you remember what Tom Ferber sent us an email telling us?
No, I don't.
The judge wanted us to come to his...
Yeah, to his chambers. I remember that. Yeah.
I said, we're too pro se.
Right.
What do we look like? We don't have a license to be there. They could say that we threatened him. There's no cameras in the judge's chambers.
Right.
We get up in those chambers. They got a back door. They could shimmy us out to that mail room. We're not saying that they would have done that to us, but it felt very scary to go somewhere without a court reporter and to face a judge, and we don't have the proper protocol of having a license and being licensed.
Right. Anytime they call you to the judge's chambers, you know, you want to choose somebody out.
Right, but you got to be licensed to do that. And I wasn't going to be threatened without it being on record. So you know what we wrote back on the email? We wrote back, not unless it's in a courtroom with a court reporter, we will not meet the judge. We were smart.
Right. You
Plus,
know,
William, you would have been by phone. You'd have been safe. I
he
just was not going in his chambers by myself so I could disappear. I'm not saying he would have disappeared me, but he was already operating below the board, and I didn't know what else would happen. I'd never been pulled into no basement of a district court before, and we had been filing for months and months.
Right, and they knew I was in Chicago.
Right.
Yeah.
They knew you were in Chicago.
Yeah,
So we made a complaint to the FBI about the defendants for the civil RICO case. We also filed a copy of our RICO case with the federal prosecutor's office. We also registered our case with the district attorney's office because the judge was the defendant, and that's who had to defend him. Well, it was the State Department had to defend the judge.
But we also filed a complaint against him too.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
And so also when we did the FBI report, we explained that we were scared. I even had the sheriffs monitoring my home because I told them that I was afraid that during this case, something nefarious could happen, home invasion, something scary that could seemingly be unrelated. But being that we have civil RICO cases against high profile people, we were afraid because we were after the shenanigans. And then we did what is it called? The IC3 report with the FBI telling them that they were hacking into our computers and our cell phones because our computers be moving on its own today. It would happen to us.
They was erasing, as we write documents, they was erasing as we find laws. They was taking laws out of our documents. They was doing all kind of things like that. You know?
The clerks of the courts were working with them.
Yes, and taking laws out of our documents. We filed 103 pages. They only put 52 on the record. All kind of stuff was going on with these people. I mean, it's like they enlisted the clerks, and every time it'd be a different clerk up there. You know, I don't know. For me, I really didn't understand why was they cheating us. Even in the beginning, before Judge, when Judge Trash got on the case, that's when all these things started happening. And this is why we charged them with a crime, because we knew right then that the judge is like, he was the law. He wasn't going by the federal law. He was the law. It's what he said. Because even if it don't match the law of civil procedure.
Right, he wasn't acting like a judge anymore.
Right, it was all like, he was, I don't know, I want to say, like he was just on their side. He didn't, I mean, it was like he didn't even read the record. He didn't even read the motions that was filed. He just came in the case, just blah, 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 taking stuff off, pulling them out, and doing all kind of things that was illegal. You know, we knew this was illegal. You know, and we was trying to prove that. What you think, Terry?
Well, I agree because we even put Verizon on alert. We knew that the way the judge was operating was unscrupulous, but also we knew that it was also connected to the fact that when we filed and put him on the complaint, document 85, we discovered several things in our research, and I'm going to jog your memory, okay? We discovered that there was this TV show called Too Close to Home in 2016.
Right, I remember that.
That was, and remember, between 2015 and 2016, me and Tyler Perry were in court.
Right.
So in 2016, what did we discover about Too Close to Home? So, William, what did we discover about the TV show Too Close to Home in 2016 while I was in court with Tyler Perry with the same Judge Thrash between 2015 and 2016?
Right. Well, we discovered that Judge Thrash, Tyler Perry and Judge Thrash possibly had a contract of telling his life story, which is we realized that either his daughter or his granddaughter played in the movie.
There was a girl named Annie Thrash that was on the TV show.
Right.
And it was ironic that it aired during the time that I was in court with Tyler Perry. And it was about a low-income Alabama upbringing of a person who decides to go to law school upstate. I mean, not upstate, up north.
Right.
And the person was from Alabama, like Judge Thrash was from Alabama. And then it was Tyler Perry's first and only all-white cast for a TV show. And on top of that, Judge Thrash went up north to go to law school at Harvard, which is also up there, and came back to practice law in the South, just like in the TV show. The person came back to practice law in their, in the South, where they were up, where their upbringing was. So the weirdest thing about that was that it was aired on TLC, which was Oprah Winfrey Partners Network.
Right.
Right. The one that owned with her, David Zaslav, owns TLC, in which they got the TV show on there.
Exactly.
When you look up the biography of Judge Thrash, he was born in Birmingham, Alabama, and went to Harvard and came back to Georgia to practice law as an assistant district attorney in the Fulton County District Attorney's Office and private practice law. And then he also became a professor of law at the Georgia State University.
Right.
And so we knew at this time there was a conflict of interest. And one of the things the judge did not do in his document when he filed through the State Department his answer to our complaint to dismiss it, he did not state that we were wrong about the conflict of interest of having that TV show and his family members and it being about him. And we submitted the evidence on it. And he did not deny it. So we accepted it as true.
Exactly.
So they would log into the computers that we were working on to do court documents. And while we were working, they would delete whole sections of our documents. And we would have to do a quick Control Z to get it back or rewrite the whole thing. Or we couldn't find the sections that were removed.
Right.
And then we would be on a crunch time to get it down there. And every day was just crunch time to get our documents down there.
Yeah. Yep, you're right about that. They did so many things that was illegal. And one time you had video of it, remember?
Right.
You still got that video?
I might still have it on like my I might have it to show everyone.